Hi again, John Wesley Bready, page 297 of this Freedom Whence, under the general chapter title of Creative Social Service, Opportunity for the Destitute Child. Many are the voluntary Anglo-Saxon organizations through which pulse the power of Christian freedom. The foregoing are but representative. What the French Revolution was to the development of half Europe, the Evangelical revival was to the development of the British Empire in America. It was the watershed of Anglo-American history. As Professor Halevi repeatedly has hinted, Wesley was the Napoleon of the English-speaking world, and the fact that his weapons were Christian and spiritual, not pagan and carnal, has profoundly affected the whole subsequent development of the British Empire in the United States. Democracy in these commonwealths became a spiritual ideal, closely associated with 100 organized manifestations of social service and self-help. It became rooted in a Christian conception of the meaning and purpose of life. The Evangelical revival is more central to the understanding of the modern heritage of the English-speaking peoples than is the Reformation, and the more exhaustively it is examined, the more inescapable becomes the conclusion that it was infinitely less marred by human alloy. Though headed by an incomparable clergyman, it primarily was an awakening of the people, and through it the people found its soul. Returning, however, to creative social service, it should be noted that the Boy Scout and Girl Guide movement, founded by Lord Baden-Powell in 1908, owes much to the same spiritual succession. Of the 4 million members of this world organization, this is back around 1938, the vast majority are in areas profoundly influenced by evangelical Christianity. Evangelical churches, forsooth, have been the chief organizing centers of the movement. While it pledges, "I will do my duty to God and my country. I will do my best to help others, whatever it costs me," and the commitment to do a good turn daily, are expressive of practical Christianity. Numerous, too, are the friendly societies and mutual aid fraternities which owe their life to the new springs of fellowship opened up by the revival. But of all its later humanitarian achievements, few are more winsome than its creations on behalf of destitute children. Muller's Homes, that is George Muller, Stevenson's The National, Quarriers in Scotland, Spurgeon's, Fagan's, and the Homes of the Waifs and Strays Society are all traceable to the same fountainhead. The greatest and most romantic of all such homes, however, are those established by Dr. Barnardo, and their unique pioneering importance merits some detailed attention. In middle teens, Thomas John Barnardo was a priggish agnostic. 5 weeks before his 17th birthday, on May 26, 1862, during a memorable Irish revival, he experienced a thoroughgoing conversion. The scoffer was transformed into a zealous Christian, who soon was devoting 5 evenings a week to voluntary service in the vilest Dublin slums. When 20, Barnardo heard an appeal by Hudson Taylor, founder of the China Inland Mission, and so searching was its effect upon him that the same day he volunteered as a missionary candidate for China. A few weeks later, the enthusiast had resigned his Dublin business post and was settling in London, training for medical missionary service. But scarcely had he discovered his bearings when he discovered also the missionary needs of East London slums. So, at his own expense, he started the Donkey Shed Ragged School, and there it was, on a wintry night in 1866, he encountered Jim Jarvis, his first homeless waif. Barnardo, when closing his school for the night, heard a sound by the fireplace, and there, curled up near the dying embers, but hidden by a box, lay a gaunt, tattered urchin, who pleaded piteously to be allowed to sleep in the school all night. The youngster had no underclothing, no cap, no shoes or stockings. His coat and trousers were ventilated by a score of rents. And though he said he was 10, his appearance betokened an emaciated lad of 7. Soon Jim Jarvis was seated at a feast in Barnardo's digs. On cross-examination, he insisted that he had no home, parent, or friend. He was one of a tribe of street urchins, living nowhere and sleeping anywhere. beyond the reach of the police, and that tribe, he maintained, was more numerous than he could count. The meal over, and the cross-examination concluded, a coin was placed in Jim's hand, and the two sallied forth in dead of night in search of a lay sleeping out. Well over an hour they trudged, peered and peeped in vain. Barnardo began to think his companion was hoaxing him, but the waif was persistent. "Don't stop, governor. We'll find him, all right." At last, in a blind alley, they climbed a wall 10 feet high, and there, on a metal roof, covered only with rags and tatters, lay 11 human waifs. From that moment, China was challenged by East London. Before many days, other lays were discovered, and the ragged school teacher, with missionary intensity, bombarded all his Christian friends. Then an unexpected situation arose. Barnardo, as a foreign missionary candidate, was seated on the platform of a great missionary meeting in the agricultural hall. The speaker, advertised, was an eminent public man, but at the last minute came a message that he had been taken ill and could not appear. Dr. Thane Davidson, the chairman, was one of those to whom Barnardo already had related his discoveries. In his extremity, he turned to the missionary student and warned him to collect his thoughts. He must speak in the great man's stead. In simple story, Barnardo told of the waifs he had discovered and challenged the Christian conscience on their behalf. He intended to speak only 20 minutes, but the response of the audience carried him on. Almost for an hour he electrified their interest. Among those who came to him after the meeting was a little servant girl who timidly confided that she had been saving her farthings to help the missionaries abroad. Then, pressing a small bag into his hand, she explained, "Surely to help these homeless lads is missionary work." The bag contained 25 farthings. It was Barnardo's first public assistance. Next day, Barnardo's speech was featured in the press. Jealous defenders of London's social institutions published letters in reply, some accusing the young Irishman of fabrication. Shaftesbury, that is Lord Shaftesbury, as president of the Ragged School Union, determined to know the truth, so he invited Barnardo, his accusers, and certain disinterested social workers to dinner at his home. There Barnardo's story was challenged. So at midnight, cabs were summoned, and Shaftesbury's guests proceeded from West End mansions to East End slums. The upshot was that the young missioner showed his companions not 11, but 73 boys sleeping out. That find Barnardo always considered providential. It was the largest by far he ever discovered. His critics were utterly disarmed. The veteran reformer, that is Shaftesbury, was dumbfounded. Before the party returned westward, Shaftesbury intimated to the foreign missionary volunteer that his China might be East London. With the good Earl's support, Barnardo established the East End Juvenile Mission, part of whose endeavor was to find Christian homes for homeless waifs. Its founder never was to see China, the land of his dreams, but out of this humble mission evolved the world-famous Dr. Barnardo's Homes, which since 1866 have mothered, fed, clothed, educated, industrially trained, placed out in positions, and followed up with parental care 125,000 once destitute boys and girls, while by provision of food, shelter, and clothing, by discovery of interested relatives, by finding employment, etc., they have befriended nearly 500,000 more. More about the Barnardo Homes next time. I'll put in a link to a video series we did. I think it's 3 videos altogether, the first of which is Epidemics and Faith, How Christianity Conquered the Roman Empire. See you soon.